Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are creating a Sonic and Knuckles cake, retro style. We are starting with a 6-inch round in white, with a few airbrush marks from another cake I was working on. Don't ask, it was a stressful week. You'll see I haven't given it sharp edges as they're going to be covered. I'm giving the whole cake a light spray with blue airbrush colour. All the materials I use are listed in the description box. We are working on the mushroom hill zone from Sonic 3, rather than your usual green hill zone that everyone knows from the first game. For the hill colour, I'm mixing green with brown and then with white for a muddy olive green colour. I also have to apologise for my fingers. That is purple airbrush colour under my nail that won't come out. Like I said, long story, try to ignore it. Roll out your green, leaving it a little thicker than you want it, as we will be rolling it out further after the yellow. With the greeny yellow, roll small ovals and add them in a line across the paste. Then change the direction for the row underneath and so on. Once you've done that, roll gently across the dots to flatten them. They will get bigger and wider the more you roll. Now we want to cut the hill shape. Level off the base and then cut the slope in. You can also use the second piece as a smaller hill. Lay the hill on the side of the cake, sticking it with water. Add more hills and platform shapes to create your own Sonic level. For the tree trunks, mix orange with brown and cut strips in varying widths. Add them all around the cake and cut the tops flush with the top edge. Cover your board in green. This is Lincoln Green by Renshaw. To see the full tutorial on this method, which gives you a neat base, check the description box. In the same green, roll out a sausage of paste and stick it along the tops of your hills. With the squishy bottom part of your palm, press the sausage to flatten it. On the corners, squash and pull down a piece of paste for an overhang. With the Dresden tool, mark in points at the base of the grass to create little humps. Use smaller sausages for your smaller platforms. Stalks of the mushrooms are slightly darker brown. Add a few of these where there's space. With the same brown, take your shell tool, or if you don't have one of these, you can drag the same effect in with the Dresden tool. You just want to create a dragged, uneven bottom. Then trim out this shape to add to the top of your stalks. The mushroom tops are made with a red circle kept quite chunky. Chop this in half and then tap along the curved edge to soften it out. Place them on top of the stalks with water and add yellow dots all over them. For a well-known Sonic detail, cut out a small square from grey. Place it on the edge of a straight platform. Mark in a few vertical lines with the Dresden tool. The finishing piece is a narrow yellow rectangle on the end. Yep, one of those super annoying springboards that propel you all the way back and into some perilous spikes. Add a few around the cake. With some black paste, cut out a square and a rectangle of grey that's slightly wider than it. Next, roll out a grey string and line the rest of the square to encase it. Trim it down so it's all even. Mark a line under the screen and squash 2 small ovals at either side, also marking in lines. Place this on a space between the trees. Clean any icing sugar off with a damp paintbrush. For the famous rings, roll a string of yellow paste and push the joins together. Gently roll the join between your fingers before adding it to the black screen. The rings around the rest of the cake are made in the same way but pushed into ovals. No Sonic cake would be complete without those spikes. Cut 3 tall triangles from grey paste and stick them together in a line. Now that we have the main Sonic details on, we can add fillers. In our case, they are tiny mushrooms. Add little stalks in clusters and mini semicircles of blue. There are also some singular red mushrooms. Whilst we have the red, roll out a small cone shape and chop it in half. Reshape them so they are even and resemble some pointy shoes. Cut out thin strips of white to go across the centres. Place them on top of the cake facing outwards. For the legs, I'm using Renshaw's Atlantic Blue. Roll out sausages of paste and dampen them across the centre. Push a kebab stick down into the paste and pinch the sides up over the top before rolling it to smooth it all out. Trim paste off with a knife when it gets too long and keep rolling to make the legs thinner. Make 2 of these with the paste in the middle of the stick. Push them down into the shoes, angling one stick slightly. Trim the paste to size and remove the excess. With wire cutters, cut the sticks down, one left longer than the other. The socks are white rectangles with a line scored down the centre, wrapped around the ankles and then chopped to size with scissors at the back. Sonic's body is a small blue egg shape. Slide this down the long stick and nestle it on top of the shorter one. Trim the longer stick down to the top of the body. This creates a tiny little platform for the head to rest on. Add a circle to the front in pale flesh colour. Knuckles' shoes are ovals rather than pointed and have thicker strips in yellow. Roll out some grey and place the shoes on top, cutting around them to create a small platform. We are working on the retro versions of Sonic and Knuckles. If you want the newer versions, there are a few detail differences you might want to keep in mind. For the tops, cut short rectangles of grey paste and add 4 studs to each one. Place these next to Sonic and push down red legs made in the same way on the kebab sticks. Knuckles' body is a slightly different shape, on the count that he isn't actually a hedgehog. He has more of a rounded body and a larger chest. He has a white crescent shape pointing upwards, made from cutting paste with 2 circle cutters out of white. Knuckles' socks are chunky green rectangles. For Sonic's arms, roll a thin flesh sausage and attach it at the shoulder and cross it across the body. Add one at the other side, crossing it over and tucking it away in the bend of the other arm. The hands are white ovals, a small triangle cut out to create a thumb, and then 3 slits for fingers. Separate the fingers if you can and roll them to round them out. Might get myself some white gloves, they seem to be really popular with Sonic, Mario and Mickey Mouse. They must be all the rage. Add the glove to the end of one of the wrists, tucking it around the upper arm. The second hand has been chopped at the fingers as it's going to be poking out from underneath the other arm. Knuckles has, well, big knuckles, so flatten one end of a white ball and fold it over. Next, tease each corner up into a spike. Again, please ignore that nail. To hold the larger fists, add a cocktail stick to the body. Attach the fists with red sausage arms. Whilst these set, we will create the name. I've rolled out some blue and got my name traced out onto greaseproof paper. I bent the text slightly so it will fit the shape of the board. You know the drill, if you've seen my previous tutorials, trace around the letters with the Dresden tool and then cut them out with a scalpel. You can use your template to place the letters on and make sure they haven't warped. To back the letters, I've got some yellow paste curved to a similar shape. Place the template on top and mark the centre of the letters. This will help you place the letters on in the right shape. Using a scalpel, cut around the letters, leaving a small frame. Dampen the board and lay it into position, and with a damp paintbrush, clean up any icing sugar patches. As Sonic's head is quite big, we are using a polystyrene ball to minimise the weight. Take a ball of blue in a similar size and push the ball into it, gathering the paste up and around it until it reaches the top. Roll it between your hands to get rid of all the seams and insert a cocktail stick. With the pale flesh colour, roll a sausage and then thin the ends, leaving the centre fatter. Press this onto the head, flattening the outer pieces wider. Press the centre lump down, leaving a small bump for the muzzle. With the Dresden tool, mark in a side smile, pushing the lines back together. Eyes are just 2 humps cut from a thin piece of white paste. Add this directly above the muzzle and tap it down. Line the eyes with a thin string of blue. The pupils are just black ovals. Mark in a small hole on top of the muzzle, dampen it and then insert a black oval for the nose. Catch lights are this time ovals instead of balls. Hold up the head next to the body. You can see the cocktail stick is a little long and we don't want it to poke out, so trim it down to size. Sonic spikes are blue teardrop shapes, flattened and cut to size. Add a few down the back, defining the spikes as you go. The tail is a small spike. The ears are blue triangles with flesh overlaid on the top and trimmed down. And that's Sonic done. Knuckles' head starts the same as a red ball, and the muzzle is very similar, but it's slightly longer. The smile is the same, but it's on the other side. Eyes are pointed teardrops instead of humps, but they're still lined in the same way. Knuckles has spikes facing down. These are just attached all the way around. And that's both figures finished. Now we have finished on the top, we can line the edge, squash some green paste into a rough cloud shape and stick it to the top of the trees. Next, take a star tip. I'm not sure what this one is called because it's slightly spiralled in appearance, but I get faster results with it over a regular shaped star tip. Stab and turn the tip in the paste to create a fluffy texture. Continue adding treetops until you've filled the whole edge. You can stop here if you want, but I felt it needed some little mushrooms on the board. I rolled some cones of yellow and cut the tops and bottoms flat. Add these all around and leave them to set just a little. With a ball of red paste, tease the bottom edge out to create a slightly cupped shape. Stick these to the stalks with water and add yellow dots. And we're done. A retro Sonic and Knuckles cake for those 30-somethings out there. Modernise it with the current Sonic who has green eyes, a larger head, ring detail on his shoes and slightly different spikes. Change the level below for the birthday boy or girl's favourite. A bit of a long tutorial this one as there was quite a bit to fit in, but hopefully you found it useful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up or even share it. It all helps towards making more each week. Thanks guys, bye!